Thanks for joining us for Cult Fiction. Today we are talking about the new James Gunn Superman movie that just came out this weekend, and we have all seen it, and we are going to talk about it. And I'm going to start, and I'm going to say that I thought it was not a good movie. That is what I thought. Now, I will say that the production values were good. It had really beautiful special effects in many places, but there's something about see, here's the problem, right? Like I'm an old guy. I'm in my 50s now, and it's like I if I had been 14 years old when I watched this movie, I probably would have just dug it. You know what I'm saying? I would have just been all over this movie. But I grew up with the Christopher Reeve Superman, and I thought that Man of Steel was a good spiritual successor to that movie. But man, I didn't like this movie, and I want to let everybody have an opportunity to talk about what they really thought of it. So I won't take too much more time, but I will say the story was like on the level of Johnny Quest, like a Johnny Quest episode on Sunday afternoons. It really was not very good, and it bums me out to say that because I really like the Superman character, but I just ended up not liking it. Joe, did you like it, or are you going to say that you did not like it?
I'm gonna say I was bored. Uh,
Mm,
so it's not that I didn't like it. I would say if you're watching this, I encourage you to watch it because I'm excited to see what this opens up for the James Gunn DCEU.
sure.
That's where I stand on it. Spoilers. We had a cool Peacemaker cameo. Um, obviously we had other characters introduced like Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl. We had one of the Lanterns introduced, and we have Lanterns coming up early 2026 with Aaron Pierre. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Peacemaker coming back in August. I don't think James Gunn is bad at all at his vision. I think this was just kind of a lackluster performance on his part. But that being said, if you showed me this movie and then quizzed me afterwards and said who directed it, I would have said James Gunn
Yeah, yeah,
because it was a James Gunn movie. And
very clearly.
and
Yeah.
I like damn near everything James Gunn has done. But this just felt off the mark for me. Uh, we got the opening. I don't know if you want to call it opening credits, the opening texts about the
Right.
300 years, the 30 years, whatever, all that stuff. I was intrigued. I was curious to see where it was going, and then after that, for the next 30 minutes, I was bored.
So that okay, so that I want to echo that because that's the very beginning of the movie. And again, these are spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, maybe you should watch the movie and then come back and watch this. The intro was fascinating because it's like Superman was defeated. Like it's 3 minutes ago he was defeated for the first time. I'm like, what? Like, whoa, that's okay. You got me. I'm hooked. Like I'm interested. I want to know what you're doing. And then the very next thing that happened was Super Dog showed up. Super Dog. What the fuck, guys? A dog?
Yeah.
Like a puppy, like Super Puppy showed up.
My
Hmm?
big question about that is wondering if Sean Gunn did the motion capture for it because he does it for every other
Oh,
James.
yeah. Right.
So I gotta
I
wonder.
It just pulled me out of it. Like there was this moment where I was like really interested, and then I'm like, it was just childish. It felt really, really childish, right?
I
And
mean, I kind of like the way they circled back to that throughout the movie, and the quote about like how Superman said he was the worst dog ever, but probably just needed love or whatever the quote was. I forgot all about it. So that was good for Superman's uh, humanitarian side. But again, I was bored. I would say Nicholas Holt stole this movie, and if they would have made this a Lex Luthor movie, I would have been fully on
mm,
board because I really feel like this was his movie. A spoiler again, all the way up until the very end when he turned into a jealous ex-girlfriend. He went from
right.
like megalomaniac to jealous ex in like the flip of a switch, and I wasn't too excited about that. But man, Nicholas Hoult carried this movie, in my opinion, uh, like in a backpack over his shoulders to over just ranges of mountains. If it wasn't for Nicholas Hoult, this movie would have been absolutely terrible.
Hmm. Hmm. I get that. I get that. I thought he did a good job. But yeah, ultimately I thought he sold the Lex Luthor character short because he was not he was petty. And that's kind of stupid. And that's kind of the opposite of Lex Luthor. Anyway, my 2 cents. Alex, what was your take on it?
I mean, I thought it was just a mess. There was just too much in it, and it was just sort of like an everything but the kitchen sink approach, and they didn't flesh out any of the parts, So, I mean, the way I looked at it was I came out of it thinking it was basically like a $250 million Saturday morning cartoon, like it felt like an episode of The Super Friends,
Right, right, right.
and I mean, maybe that's what a lot of people wanted, and okay, fair enough. But I just sort of like it. There's all these things in the movie that I didn't care about at all, like Hawk Girl, and like Mr. Terrific was like given all this time, but they didn't develop him really, and I didn't
He
care. I
felt
guess.
so
I guess
short.
if you're a fan of the character, it's
He
great to
felt
see
so
him.
short. I wanted to
Like,
like him so bad, and then he just didn't.
Yeah,
but
he had this. He had
not
this
time
great.
invested or anything.
Mr. Terrific had this great action scene that I should have dug. I should have been totally into it because it's right up my alley. But it's like it's happening, and I'm just like I don't care because I don't know who this guy is,
Well,
and
it's
that's
not, they didn't get you invested in anything.
right, right.
So I think if you're a fan of the DCU and you know these characters, then you'll probably be invested in it. So, but it's sort of like for me, I never read the new Guardians of the Galaxy, the ones that James Gunn based the movies off of, but I was still invested in the characters when he brought them on, and I was like in their stories, but these. I couldn't. There was no way for me to get it all invested in the movie and anything. I couldn't get invested in the plot. I couldn't get invested in the characters. I couldn't get invested in Superman, who I thought was for most of the movie wasn't super at all. Like he didn't. I mean, the opening scene he gets beat, and it's sort of like okay, cool, but there's no point where he really starts becoming what I felt like was Superman, where he's like doing super stuff. It's like, and he was almost like a not quite second fiddle, but he was not the lead in his own movie,
Right.
And so, but then all that I can forgive a lot of this stuff if I was invested in anything, either the plot or the writing or the characters or just any of this. And to me, it was just all subpar, all of it. Every piece of the movie to me was just subpar. And so I'm just watching it, and even the action, was just sort of like, a lot of, you're saving a squirrel and
Yeah, it's cute.
yeah,
Cute.
and like preventing falling debris from hitting people, which is something we've seen so many times before. And it's just sort of like, right, I'm looking for a reason to start enjoying the movie, and I just never did. And even when I was really looking forward to Nathan Fillion as Green Lantern, and he had a couple of moments and everything, but I felt like, what I'd rather have is no Hawkgirl, no Mr. Terrific, and like more development with Green Lantern and Superman, So it's just like there's just after it's over, there's no angle to this movie that endeared me to it. There was nothing I particularly enjoyed.
It's forgettable. It's forgettable.
It was. It was kind of forgettable. Yeah, and maybe it's because it was for younger people, right? Like maybe it just wasn't for me, and that doesn't necessarily mean it was bad. It's just like it wasn't geared towards me, and I feel like
though, because I'll die on the hill that I think Man of Steel, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, is a very good movie and one of the better comic book movies of this day. Yada yada. I think all the criticism people have of Zack Snyder are pretty much 100% right. But I like that movie. But I remember when that movie came out, and there were a lot of people that were saying that's not what Superman's supposed to be. He's supposed to be like a little bit more upbeat, a little more colorful, and blah blah. And so like I see this movie, and I'm like, I think that's probably what they were talking about. They're like, that's what Superman should be, and I'm kind of like, okay. I'm always kind of like, Superman can be anything. Just make sure the movie he's in is good. And to me, this was not a good movie. It's just sort of like all these things happening, and none of them were done particularly well.
Right.
That's it.
Right. So we got three people who didn't really care too much for it. Maybe Eric can break up the monotony here a little bit. What did you think, sir?
So I liked it. I think the difference is I feel like I understand that this is not. It's called Superman, but it's not a Superman movie. It is an introduction to the new DC EU, essentially.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of how you have to take it. Also, this is closer to what Superman is than Man of Steel, and this is
In the
for DC.
comics.
Yes, in the comics, and this is a DC fan movie. So he wrote it, like hoping that people would understand certain things. Like I was listening to some criticism, not from you guys, but from other people, were like, "Oh, so Lex just has, you know, a a pocket universe." Yes. Like you can't have it both ways, in the sense of you can't say, "Okay, I don't want another origin story. I want it to pick up like a few years in," and then not allow the writer to then assume that you know things. And one of the things you should know is that Lex is smart. It's like if I watch a Sherlock Holmes movie, I'm coming in knowing Sherlock Holmes is a smart ass motherfucker, right? Like there's certain things I don't. This is something I talked about with Jubal. I don't like when people do original IPs and then they make you fill in the blanks. It's like I can't fill in the blanks. This is your shit. This is your new shit. You've got to tell me how I'm supposed to react. But with a character that's 70, 80 years old, it's not beyond the pale to just go, look, we know Lex Luthor is obsessed with Superman. We know now that he's had at least 3 years to do that. We know he's super smart. There's going to be things that I shouldn't have to walk you around by your hand and explain to you. Like Superman does this, Lex Luthor does that. That being said, that works with Superman and it works with Lex Luthor. It doesn't work as well with Mr. Terrific, for example, or Guy Gardner, uh, Green Lantern, or Hawk Girl, because people don't know them to the same extent as they know Superman and Lex Luthor. I think there's a saying that says that in comic books or in storytelling, there's like three origin stories you never have to tell anymore, and that's Spider-Man, Superman, and Jesus. Like everybody knows them. Like you don't have to ever tell them again.
I'd add
And, like,
I'd add Batman to that list, but
but
yeah.
the problem with Batman is that they have tinkered with so many things in it, whether it's like, oh, Joe Chill killed his parents,
Right.
or no, it was Joker that killed his parents, or no, it was Joe Chill, but at the directive of someone else, or, where it's Elseworld where they went like, oh no, uh, Batman was the one who got killed. Or excuse me, Bruce Wayne was the one who got killed, and his dad turned into the Batman, and his mom turned into the Joker or whatever. And so they tinker with it depending on who's writing it. But Superman always comes from Krypton, and what's his nuts? Spider-Man always gets bit by a spider. It's just that's the way it is. So if you don't want them to write origin stories, then you have to do some of the lifting. And you have to go, okay, I can suspend reality. He's got a pocket dimension. He's got all this kind of stuff. I actually thought they did a pretty good job with Lex. I thought his motivation was significantly better than BVS, which was just, I don't like Superman and I don't like Batman. And then he did his whole thing. The motivation in BVS was so paper thin. With this one, you can understand when he makes that he says that line about Galileo and these other people, these other super geniuses that they put him in the same sentence with, but he, of course, he's smarter than them. But he's like, at least Galileo did something. You didn't even do anything. You just showed up and like, oh, because you're from another world and you're strong, people revere you. You don't even do anything, you know? And of course, that's probably how he has to like rationalize it when in reality, you know, Superman's saving thousands of people and stuff like
Right.
that. And that's why they love him. They don't love him just because he's an alien and he's super strong. They love him
Right.
because he's an alien, he's super strong, and he saved 1,000 people, you know?
Okay, so I want to just interject one thing real quick too, because part of the reason that I really, was not fond of this movie was because the structure of the structure of the plot was so dumb. It's like you must think I'm stupid, right? For me to believe this, that if some newscaster, some news show puts out something
Right.
that says, oh, the second half of Superman's message that he got from his parents is about how he's supposed to take over the world, that all of a sudden everybody would just be like, whoa, fuck Superman, right?
Right.
No, that's not what would happen, right? People would be like, oh, well, first of all, like, I don't believe you. Like, why should I believe you for saying some crap that's obviously against what we've been seeing Superman do? And then the second thing people would say is, well, good thing he didn't listen to his parents then, right?
Right. So on that note, and this is something that Jubal and I talked about, is
This is a
like
world where everybody believes everything they see on TV.
right. DC specifically doesn't really take place on Earth. It's like Earth, but it's Metropolis, it's Star City, it's Gotham City. It's not New York and DC and Philadelphia, right? Also, you have a lot of you there's almost like this idyllic idea of journalism, you know, whether it's Lois Lane, Cat Grant, Perry White. I'm trying to think of the one from the Vicky Vale in Gotham, like these
J.
reporters that
Jonah Jameson, come on now.
yeah, but J. Jonah Jameson
So many
is
alliterations.
Right.
yeah, but J. Jonah Jameson is like a tabloid journalist, right? But in the DC world, it's like journalism is beyond reproach, you know? And so when there's almost like this idea, if they tell you, well, then it must be true. And if it wasn't true, by golly, they tricked us. You know, gosh darn it, Lex Luthor is a bad guy. We didn't see that coming. And in that regard, it is kind of like a 1950s comic strip. It is a Saturday morning cartoon. It is, a 14-year-old kind of way of thinking about the world, you know. It by golly, and this is I was talking to Jubal and Alex last night about it, and this is one of the things that drives me crazy when it comes to hardcore DC fans who are just like, DC's so dark. And it's like, no, 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 no. No. Frank Miller's dark. Some Batman stories are dark. The rest of your stuff is like Sunday morning cartoon shit. Like it is. Like let's stop pretending, you know? There's a lot of like Sunday morning cartoon shit, you know? So in that regard, it felt like it did feel like a Superman movie to me. It felt like a Superman comic book to me that kind
So
of brought to
Yeah.
life.
But
so let me,
one of my bigger problems with the whole development was, convincing everybody that Superman was bad was just like, a lot of people were complaining about the whole thing where his parents are actually, wanting him to be a conqueror and stuff like that.
Right, right.
I wasn't, whatever. My thing was though, Lex Luthor is going and like breaking into his fortress of solitude, and like luckily he finds this like message that they can, interpret that Superman didn't even know, and now his parents are telling him to be, a ruler, and it's just sort of like, so Lex Luthor had no plan exactly. He's
No,
just
he did.
breaking into his fortress of
Well,
solitude,
he said he was
hoping to
hoping.
find something.
Yes, yeah,
You
he
know,
was hoping to find something.
but I was hoping that they would come out with, he did. Why do they need to make it so that his parents were like the rulers, that just make it he hacked the message or something like that and fooled everybody? I don't know why it was necessary
Well,
to
because they
make the
say
change to the parents rather than just
yeah,
have
they
Lex
said
Luthor be the genius that like manipulates everything and
right.
fools everybody.
right.
It's
So,
because
but that's
otherwise he
also
just has no plan.
But that's
Right.
also one of the reason why everybody believed it, because they said that you know, military or intelligence forces had checked on the message and they verified it to be true. So that's another reason why the people would believe it and stuff like that. I don't really
They
mind.
couldn't fool them with any sort of alien
No,
technology
I mean,
or
sure. I mean, sure.
anything.
You could have done
The
that,
chick
but I
that
think
has
that
buzzsaw heads that can like manipulate
100%.
DNA.
You could have done that, but I do think that it is it's an interesting take because the thing is, I think it's far more interesting. Well, I don't know about far more interesting. It's just a different take when you realize that that Kryptonians are very like they're almost like Viltrumites, to bring it to Invincible, right?
Yeah, but my problem
And
wasn't with them. My problem was
what's
not,
that?
but my problem wasn't with them.
No, but what I'm saying
Yeah.
is what I'm saying is that that because Kryptonians have like been kind of described like Viltrumites, it's been kind of cheesy in a sense that Jor-El and his wife were like the only ones that were like peace-loving Kryptonians, and they just wanted, oh, we just want peace and love, and we sent our son, blah blah blah, and all this. This is a situation where what they're doing is no, your parents were just like all the other Kryptonians. That's not what made you a good person. What made you a good person was you got in the Kents raised you. The Kents are what made you a good person, not Jor-El, not Kryptonian, lore, none of that. It was the Kents that made you a good person because your parents were Viltrumites. Your parents were like, no, this is what we know. This is our culture. We go around and we destroy shit and we take over lands. It was cheesier to think of like, oh, just these, oh, I love science and blah blah. Like, bro, stop it. This actually makes more sense. That what made Superman a good person, and it kind of goes to that Red Sun theory that we were or storyline we were talking about, where what would happen if the same guy landed in Mother Russia and was, brought up by communists and all that kind of stuff.
We still haven't
So
watched that. We should watch that.
yeah, what made him a good
No.
person was the Kents. And then they brought that around to the end where this whole time he was like listening to this message from his parents, and then at the end, again,
Oh.
spoiler, he's watching videos of him and the Kents because he realizes that's actually who made him a human being.
Sure.
I
So
want to just jump in real quick, just to backtrack on the media thing. I think it's also kind of a microcosm of how we ingest media right now, because even over the last more than a decade at this point, you can have an opinion and it's confirmation bias. But if you find 20 videos or news stories that disagree with you, fine. But if you find one that agrees with you, you're going to glom onto it, and that's going to be your opinion. And I see this in my inbox from not a lot of people, but from few people. I have a couple conspiracy theorist friends that send me like some of the most ridiculous shit you've ever seen in your life,
sure.
but they believe it because they want to believe it. And
Sure.
so
Right.
I think it's all like it's a microcosm of that thought process of like, we have an alien here on our planet that's protecting us, and maybe there's a little hint of doubt in the back of your head that maybe it's not good. And so that little hint of doubt gets triggered by what Lex Luthor puts forward. And so you're like, I'm vindicated. I knew I was right this whole time. And so you jump on that. And I'm not saying this is humanity as a whole. And like Eric said, the DCEU is not this world. This is a different world. But it does kind of reflect how we interpret things and how we push things forward that might not necessarily be the correct view, but there are views. And
Right.
that's
So
what I got.
I definitely thought about that. Was kind of my, I don't know why I didn't go to it, but that was my other point was first that it is not our Earth, but also a more cynical side could be this is how James Gunn sees media manipulation on our Earth.
Yeah.
That all it takes
You know
is for
what?
them to go
Here-
out and say this, and this, and then we're just like
If he had
lemmings
taken
walking off the cliff.
I get what you're saying, but if he had taken a serious approach to making those kinds of arguments and trying to make those kinds of points, it would have been a far more interesting movie.
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't do that.
But okay, but on the other side of that, I'm kind of glad he didn't, because that's another thing I want to talk
Sure.
about. This movie was not woke. There was almost no political jargon in it.
No,
And
I don't think it was political. I agree. I don't think it was
yeah,
political.
and so what I would say, and this is a message to like both sides, because what it appears to me is that Variety took a quote from James Gunn and kind of squished it up a little bit, and then made, sent out 36 articles about it, and then some conservative sites like Bueller's talking about, where you kind of get this confirmation bias where they go, well, we kind of want it to be another example of woke nonsense, and they globbed onto it. So on one hand, what I would say to the more conservative side is it doesn't do you well, to because you got on this one. I think you bit on something that wasn't real,
In the
and
sense that there was an article that came out from Variety
right,
that James Gunn has said this movie's about immigration.
right,
So there's
and
total political
you guys
overtones.
bit on it,
But
and
if you watch the movie, there was nothing like that.
there was nothing like that, and I think that it doesn't. I think it doesn't do well for conservatives to continue this like hating on almost everything
Sure.
without seeing it. And then on the other side, I would say that people in entertainment, and James Gunn being one of them, needs to be more wary of media, because clearly they don't care about whether or not your movie does well. They care about their clicks. They care about like causing division, because that's going to get them noticed and that's going to get them clicks. And the reality is that this could have hurt its box office potentially, because there were going to be people who heard that story and believed it and said, well, I'm not going to go see it now. So Variety did you no favors, James Gunn. They like, I wouldn't give them interviews, honestly, after that. I'd be like, dude, we're trying to put out a product that we hope everybody can enjoy, and you turned it political, and then tried to be like, shame on the other side for biting on it. It's like, well, yeah, a pox on both houses then. Because
Right.
because you made it you tried to make it political, and they were like, agreed,
So but I think we can all agree that it was not political.
it was not.
Right.
I didn't see. I didn't
If
really
anything
see
comes out of
anything.
this podcast, honestly, because I keep seeing articles about, and I keep seeing social media posts about woke or non-woke, like go to this
Right.
movie because
Right.
whoever says it's woke is full of shit or whatever. Like it's none of that.
Right.
Watch this
No,
movie,
None of it.
get your own opinion. Either you enjoy it or you don't enjoy it, but
Right.
it's not divisive
Mhm.
Right.
in the sense of like politically divisive. It's just like you enjoy it or you don't. And like I said in my review earlier, I enjoyed it just for the simple fact where I'm excited to see what this opens up for the
Right.
DCU. But as far as sitting for 2 hours and 9 minutes through this movie, I could have watched it at home.
So I agree with you, Joe. And here's my issue. You, Eric, are saying that this movie is a more accurate, let's say, reflection of the DC universe, right? The DC comic
Right.
universe, right?
Is what I would say. Yeah.
But take a look at what Fahey did with the Marvel universe, right? He changed plenty of stuff, like
Right.
all kinds of. He created the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it reflected elements of the Marvel comic universe, but he created it for cinema, right?
Right.
And Jon Favreau like followed right along with him and helped him to bring that to life, right? So there were plenty of elements in the MCU movies, especially in those initial 5 movies, right, that broke with the comic book orthodoxy.
Right.
And so Gunn could have done that. And I think what the MCU did was, by breaking with comic orthodoxy, it created cinematic fans.
Mhm.
And I don't think this movie created any cinematic fans.
Well, I think it's right there.
I think this movie was made for people who were already DC comic universe fans.
And
But I think
well,
the point
I
you're
think
making-
that's true. Yeah.
I think the point you're making, though, is more about specific plot details, and what James Gunn movie is more about tone. Like the MCU is tonally been very similar to Marvel Comics, right? And so this movie seems like it's tonally very similar to DC, and you're not going
Yeah,
to really
Snyder's
change
verse
that.
was not
Right.
tonally
So
similar
it's
to
like maybe
DC.
some plot points here and there can get changed around, but I think for a lot of DC fans, this is what they want tonally on the screen,
Right.
and it doesn't really
So
work for us.
so another thing I would say is, again, if we're comparing first movies, you know, this one to Iron Man, I mean,
I guess you'd compare it to
come
Iron
on.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, if I get Iron Man is in a lot of people's top 10 comic book movies ever,
Right.
any group, any company. So that's a hard pill. The other thing is so now you have three movies, right? You have Man of Steel, this Superman movie, and Iron Man, all starting a cinematic universe. Man of Steel and Iron Man were more your guys' flavor because what they actually did was just introduce the character. What he's doing is introducing the universe.
Right.
He could have introduced just Superman, but then it would have been Man of Steel. Like Man of Steel was the first movie, but if you actually watch it again, it is very self-contained. Like if they didn't do BVS, if they didn't do Justice League, you could have done three Superman movies, and that's what they would have been. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying? It was extremely self-contained. Um,
Similar to
Iron Man,
But I think
Nolan's
that
Batman movies.
I think
yeah,
that kind of
and
moves away from the core criticism, though, which is I think it's poorly made. Like
Right.
I think the writing is bad. I think the plot is bad. The characters are bad.
I think the jokes
And
were dumb. Like they
see, and
fell
that's where
flat.
that's where that's just gonna have to be your preference because I didn't think that the jokes missed that much. A few did. I didn't have a problem with the writing. I, but again,
I gotta say,
I'm not looking at
I
this
hated the
movie
entire
as
Jimmy
this movie.
Olsen.
I'm looking at this movie
Yeah.
as the
Yeah.
future and what's to come.
Mhm.
And so for me, this is just an installment. And so again, when you compare it to maybe Guardians of the Galaxy and go, well, he took some characters that, yeah, the difference is you were 8 movies invested by Guardians of the Galaxy, 9 movies
Well,
invested.
but when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 1,
Right.
I didn't know any of those characters.
No, you didn't, but you didn't have to know the characters because you're already invested in the Infinity Stones and Thanos, and the MCU was 9 movies in.
Yeah,
And
but
so
yeah, but
and so it was part of a
that didn't
broader
make us like the
tapestry.
movie.
You have to remember when it's hard to remember, but back in the day, every movie kind of like had a teaser for the next movie at the end. So it was everything set up the next movie. So one of the reasons you watched Guardians of the Galaxy was not just because you were like, oh, I want to see what James Gunn does. It's you wanted to see how the story was going to
right,
progress.
I wanted to see the next Marvel movie.
So if we
Exactly.
can
Right.
Exactly.
if we can go back to Jubal talking about the cinematic ideal of the MCU, it's in the name, dude. So like it's the
Mhm.
Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it's the DCEU. It's the DC expanded universe. So it's not like it sounds trivial and stupid, but it's also like basically what you were saying. Marvel was made and it detracted a little bit from the comics to make it more cinematic, like you said. The DCEU, what they're trying to do is expand on that universe, which is what this movie, if I take some positive away from it, that's what I liked about it. And that's what I'm looking forward to is how it's going to expand on the DC universe. It's not
Very interesting way to put it. I mean, honestly, if you really think about it, yeah, the Marvel Cinematic Universe can be separate in a sense from the comic books, whereas the DCEU is the DC Extended Universe, like it's extending, like from the comic
So
books beyond.
it
I mean,
contains
I don't know if that's what they're
everything.
doing, but that's certainly an interesting way to take it.
I don't know either, but if DC is trying to create a universe where what happens in the movies and what happens in the comics is canon, then it's like, okay, well now you're going to expect your fan base to watch all the movies and read all the comics. That's just not realistic, right? The MCU was created specifically for people who go to watch films,
I agree with that.
I don't
Yeah,
disagree
that's
with
true.
it. I don't disagree
right?
with it. And that
So
could be why I was bored with this Superman movie because I have one comic from Superman and I've actually never
Right.
read it.
I think that's the part. Um, when I was talking to Jubal and he said it's just not for me. It's like I can't. what am I going to do? Argue that it's for him? Like
Right.
it's maybe just not for him, and that's great. There's lots of stuff that's not for me. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the case. If the criticism is that it's possible that James Gunn um expected you to know too much, expected you to care about characters that you didn't even know existed, I think that's a fair criticism. Again, we talked about Mr. Terrific. In the Arrowverse, Mr. Terrific was basically a character for like almost the whole season before he became Mr. Terrific.
Mhm.
Right. So there was all of this kind of build up and you kind of knew who he was. You can't do that with a character that's going to have 18 minutes of screen time. You know, he put Mr. This is the you have to assume this, right? He put Mr. Terrific in that movie because he thought people in the crowd were going to go, fuck yes. Right?
Mhm.
That's what he thought. And the problem is that 3 of the 4 people on this panel right now who have no idea who the fuck Mr. Terrific is.
Right.
And you have to assume maybe the broader audience is the same way.
And
Right?
so that's I think the big difference between the Fahey approach and the Gunn approach is that Fahey brought the story to the viewer. I'm going to show you like these characters in a way that you've maybe not, if you're experienced with them in the comics, maybe you've not seen them before, but I'm going to explain all their relationship and I'm going to do all their stuff. I'm going to make good movies. But James Gunn was like, "Oh, you're a DC fan? Like,
You're
okay,
gonna love this.
you know,
Right.
follow me. Like,
Right.
you come over here and I'll show you this DC thing
Right.
that I created for DC fans." And it's like, you know, if I'm not a DC comic fan, then that means I'm not going to enjoy it as much, and that's just too
And I
bad.
think and I
Because I think James Gunn is very talented. I think Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 2, and 3 were all home runs. So this is not me being against James Gunn by any measure of the
Right.
imagination, right? I think he's a great filmmaker. I just don't think he did a good job on this movie. That's all.
Yeah, so I do think that that's one of the things for um the MCU that was a massive home run is I don't know how many people I know who love and actually went to the theaters to watch MCU movies who probably had never even picked up a comic book
Never
in their
cracked a
life.
comic. Never cracked a comic in their
Yeah.
lives. Right.
And I know many, right? Um
I remember having
and
a conversation with Paul before Guardians came out when it was announced and they announced who the lineup was going to be. And Paul was just convinced that Rocket was not going to work on screen.
Right. I think I was
Yeah.
with you because I remember Paul being really, really worried. He was like, "This is going to suck. This is going to fail. People aren't
Right.
going to get it. Like, Guardians is not going to translate well to the screen." He was really, really concerned about that. And you know, obviously, I think we all at this point would disagree. I think those characters really came to life.
Yeah, James Gunn knocked it out of the park.
Out of the park.
Yeah.
3
Right.
home runs.
And I will say, and you know, I'm not trying to just, pile on because you guys didn't enjoy it. Obviously, I didn't think it was a perfect movie, right? So I do think that there was, his choice of the side characters, I think, left something to be desired. Hot Girl was basically like kind of in the like almost a Negasonic teenage warhead kind of teen angst almost character,
I
and then she
guess.
just and she growled at people, and then I think that what's his nuts Mr. Terrific has a chance to be a really cool character. The problem is one of the reasons that he doesn't get used is because he's so monotoned and he's so like beep bop boop, I'm just super smart and I
Right.
don't understand
I'm
emotions
Robotronic.
and stuff like
But
that.
there's
And
ways
that,
to make him.
yeah, and that's tough to convey in 15 minutes. And then Guy Gardner, his whole thing is that he's an asshole. So basically what you did was you put Superman who is like, oh shucks, guys, that kind of a Superman, and you teamed him up with like Sheldon from fucking Big Bang Theory, in Mr. Terrific, an asshole, and then a girl who can't be bothered, like would rather just sit and
Yeah, I don't know what Hot Girl was about. All she did was scream and annoy me.
right.
But
And that's what I'm saying is like, it was kind of like,
it just wasn't good use
there
of
could
the
have been more
tools.
dynamic
Right.
play
But it's
there.
also just a matter of she did nothing to the story. Like,
Well, her
she's in
and
there,
Lois Lane
but
both were
provides
very-
nothing.
Yeah, Lois Lane really had no effect on the story. That was kind of disappointing. Like you would think she had a bigger role to play.
And she might in the future, but I do again, I appreciate the fact that I enjoyed the what's it
Centricity.
called? What
Is it-
I enjoyed the interview scene. I enjoyed that, like when he started pushing back, she didn't go, "Oh, you get upset because a woman's asking you questions," or some bullshit that is done so often today.
Sure.
I didn't. I felt like she was smart and caring, which sometimes it's like nowadays women have to be strong and smart and they can't
Right.
care, and it's like so she was a strong, I felt like she was actually a strong woman. I didn't feel like she was a character, like a male character that they just gender swapped into a woman. I felt
Sure.
like, I don't know. That's how I felt. I just thought that they did a better job of conveying her strength without making her like ridiculous than a lot of other movies and shows have done with female characters lately.
Sure. I get that. I get that. And I know what James Gunn is capable of because I've seen the Guardians movies, right? And I've seen how well he can create worlds that draw you in. You know what I mean? Like the whole Star-Lord character with his mom and his mixtape, like, you know what I mean? That's like he's very, very good at doing that.
Well, he's done
And
it with Peacemaker. When he revived
so
Suicide Squad, like as silly as that plot was, it was
it was
so
silly,
much.
but the Suicide Squad was so much better, I
Yeah,
thought, than
no,
Superman.
it was so much more
Yeah,
enjoyable.
Suicide Squad was,
So
but everything landed too with
right.
Suicide Squad.
And so it makes
Yeah.
you wonder like what actually happened here. And as far as Mr. Terrific, as far as, saying that he's too robotronic to make him a good character, man, that's I got three words for you. First Lieutenant Spock,
Mm.
because Spock was all logic, but
Right. But
he was also a crucial character, and
no, of course. But
the
also there was
connection.
100 episodes of
No,
Star Trek.
sure, sure, but if you
You
watch,
know,
okay, so if you watch like Wrath of Khan, just Wrath of Khan by itself, right?
right.
You
Of
don't.
course.
You have
Of
a
course, but that's
great
also,
like
again, you're comparing a first movie to a character that is, again, we don't have, look at who the characters, we didn't really have that much of a problem. You guys didn't have that much of a problem with Superman, and you didn't have really any problem with Lex Luthor. And that's because you know those characters.
Mhm.
There is something, you know, intrinsic that you understand how those characters work. What you're really having an issue with are characters that you've been introduced to for the first time, and you felt like they either got too much screen time, like in Hot Girl, or not enough with Mr. Terrific to make me care about him, right?
Maybe,
Well, I
You
maybe,
didn't.
know,
I
and
wasn't
so
a
and
big
so
fan of
hopefully that
Superman
gets
either.
rectified in the future.
yeah.
I mean, Hot Girl and Nathan Fillion's character are both going to be on
Mm.
the next season of Peacemaker. Obviously we'll see the Green Lantern show is coming out, which I think that'll be dope. I'm really interested in what Aaron Pierre does next,
Sure,
after Rebel Ridge. This is his this is the decision you make after you hit a home run is as important as hitting the home run. You
okay,
know, like when you look at someone like what's her name, Halle Berry, right? She does Storm. She did another movie where it was like a biopic, good stuff. Then she gets Monsters Ball, wins an Oscar. What's her two next movies?
Hmm.
Gothica and Catwoman. Done.
Right,
Now she has to show her tits on
Swordfish.
on uh
swordfish.
on Swordfish and stuff to get
Do
back.
that
But
one.
that, you know what I'm saying? Which I'm not mad at. Which I'm not mad at. Like, I'm not mad at, right? But that's how it works, right? So
I understand
so
what you're
Aaron
saying.
Pierre, stock high.
Yeah,
So if he comes out and Green Lantern is good, the world is that dude's oyster.
right,
If Green Lantern sucks, we're gonna be like, oh man, I wish I saw more Aaron Pierre before he,
right, right.
you know, So
My message to James Gunn is you are an amazing filmmaker. Please tell a good story and don't get sucked up into your own fascination with DC, right? Remember why you're doing what you're doing. You're doing it for all of us.
I'm
So I
excited
also-
to
Hopefully
see
he
what
stopped
goes.
writing his yacht long enough to listen to your message.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing I want to say.
Thanks, fat guy who I've never met. I think I'll
Yeah.
not listen to you right now.
Shit, listen to this fucking guy. No, one of the things that could also be the issue is that we are seeing one facet of like literally like 3 or 4 different shows that he's writing simultaneously.
Maybe
That's the other thing. He's writing.
He's spread pretty thin right now.
Yeah, he's writing Peacemaker. He's writing like whatever 6 to 12 episodes of Peacemaker. He's writing what's it called? Green Lantern. He's got Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow coming out. I think like next year or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And honestly,
then this.
I'll admit, I kind of like the idea of just like a drunk, bitchy Supergirl, like going around,
Right,
like,
so
drinking and being drunk. I'll watch that.
So her thing, so the story with that one is he seems to be adapting the story of Woman of Tomorrow, and the reason why she gets drunk and stuff is she has had a completely different experience than Kal-El, right? So like Kal-El came over as a baby,
Sure.
right? So in Woman of Tomorrow, basically what happened is she was a teenager and she, along with some other people, did escape Krypton onto a kind of like a ship. So she saw her home planet get destroyed. Then they get onto the ship and her mother gets sick and dies of, I think, like
Dysentery.
kryptonite poisoning or something like that.
Galactic
so then she
dysentery.
dies, right? And then the ship starts to fall apart.
Mhm.
And before the ship falls apart, her father is able to ship her out.
Mhm.
So she's experienced like these 3 like world-ending tragedies, right? So whereas Cal is, he grew up on a farm and 2 loving parents, and he's just kind of like I said, aw shucks, she's known nothing but like devastation.
Mhm.
And so she goes to places with red suns where she can get drunk because the red sun mutes her powers.
Okay.
And so that story is about like
this is a great example of nerdy DCU bullshit,
yeah.
right? That people who watch movies aren't going to know. You know what I mean?
You're right.
I know you want to wrap up,
Are they
Jubal,
making a Lobo movie?
All right. No, it's so cool. What's that, Alex?
No, Lobo's going to be in it. Lobo's going to be in that movie. So Jason Momoa's Lobo is going to be in Supergirl.
No shit.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Right.
All right. We gotta wrap it up. We gotta call it here. Next week we promise to argue just as hard about something else.
I really wanted to. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up 2 things, Jubal. I'm sorry. I know you want to.
No, it's okay. Go.
All right. The first thing is, this is mega spoilers. Having having the bad guy, Ultraman, dress up as Black Noir was not cool. And I was wondering why this happened when I saw the trailers like forever ago. And then the second they walked up to the Fortress of Solitude and the doors opened because they had Superman's DNA, I was like, motherfucker. Because if you know the comics for the boys, then you know Black Noir is Homelander's exact clone in Black Noir's clothing. And Ultraman in the DC comics doesn't wear that getup at all. So why James Gunn decided to have him dressed up like Black Noir, who is Homelander, the evil version of Superman's clone, for this big reveal was just, that was
weird.
Also, real quick, did anybody, once they uncovered Ultraman and it was basically, corn sweat with longer hair, did anybody like feel like at times he looked like Henry Cavill with long hair?
No,
because there were some times where I was like, God dang, he like kind of looks like the darker version looked like Henry Cavill, which would have been like, I mean, the to have Henry Cavill come back and had played that would have took, I mean, Henry Cavill would have had to have been a saint,
Sure.
to do that kind of a thing, but
No, I
what I
get what
mean?
you're saying. I get what you're saying.
But there were times where I was just like, Jesus, he really looks like Henry Cavill in some, which is probably one of the reasons they got Corn Sweat to begin with, is that,
Right. Well, they look similar. They have the square
they
jaw.
do look similar.
They have the
Yeah.
dark hair.
Certain angles.
Certain
Yeah.
angles. All right.
The
Thanks
other,
for joining
the
us, everybody. Okay. Go.
Oh,
Good.
I'm
Please.
sorry.
No,
I said
go
I had
ahead.
two things. I said I
No,
had two
go
things.
ahead. Go.
The
Please.
other thing, and I've talked to a few people about this at work, is what would have made me like this movie, and I was waiting for it to happen so much, and it never did, was and I thought it was going to happen when Superman was flying up into the atmosphere, going into space, and he had all the nanobots on him and shit like that, and he had both Ultraman and the engineer on him, and he's just fucking flying, right?
Mhm.
I was, honest to God, waiting for this moment to happen. Just wanted for it to happen, just for him to be like, smile, like get everything off his face, smile, and be like, I've been pulling my punches this whole fucking time, and lay waste to everybody in satisfactory fashion with the movie, not kill
Mhm.
anybody, but just lay waste.
Isn't that? It's kind of what he did, right?
But by doing that, now you have Lex Luthor, who's spent 3 years trying to perfect this fighter against him, going, fuck, I underestimated him. I had no idea he was capable of all this shit. And then
Mhm.
that opens up the door for the next movies where you got to bring in bigger bats. So
Mhm.
Lex Luthor's got to step up his game, and you open the door for tougher competitors to come in.
Yeah,
Sure.
I
So
think
what
Lex
you got is Ultraman, who basically could beat Superman.
I think at that point in the movie, like just the whole structure, plot structure of Lex Luthor like calling out the combinations that Ultraman was going to throw
Like a video
to
game.
counter Superman was real dumb.
So
And then only the dog could kill the cameras.
Right.
Like
It was just
Superman
real dumb.
couldn't
So I'm with you.
kill
I would
him.
have loved it if there was a moment when Superman, was like, oh, okay, gloves off, right?
I
Yeah.
personally
Would
feel
have
like
been
the
great.
reason they did that is that, again, if you know DC lore, you know that Lex ends up getting this like purple and green suit that he wears.
Okay.
And my thinking is that
Next time Lex is going to be Ultraman.
exactly, that Lex
Okay.
is going to cut out the middleman and go, oh, when it was you, blah blah, when I could say what to do, we were winning. And so now I have to cut out the middleman and not get disconnected. My brain with the brawn beats him. But when it was just brawn on brawn, he won. So now I have to be the brawn. Also, I think it's fair to say that what's his nuts, Ultraman will probably come back and he will be Bizarro.
Yeah.
He'll be Bizarro.
Right. Out of the black hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good?
Yeah.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, oh, okay. All right. We're good. Good night, everybody. Good night. Good night, everybody.